You know what? Let's start here. How did you get into culinary?
Well, I kind of fell into it. I started my first hourly paid job when I was 16 was a dishwasher at a diner just outside Detroit, a
Hmm.
small chain called Ramshorn. It's kind of similar to Denny's.
Hmm.
So I was basically a dishwasher there for a couple of years, and then I moved to line cook, and then I moved on from there to Outback Steakhouse.
Oh shit.
And I worked at Outback in Canton, Michigan for it was the first Outback in Michigan. And this was back this was 96.
And what, you were like 18, 19 at the time?
I was like 19. And then I worked there for about 3 years. Learned most of the kitchen, and then I moved on. A buddy of mine who I also worked with there, he moved on to a fine dining restaurant from there. And then shortly after I followed him, he brought me along,
Oh wow.
and I worked my way through that kitchen for about 5 years. Um, Took a sous chef gig, and that didn't work out. I wasn't ready.
Hmm.
Um, so I just stuck to line cooking and trying to learn as much as I could for the next like 10 years after that. And when I moved out to Chicago to work at Rivers Casino, that was actually um, my first long-standing sous chef gig.
Really? Wow. That's
That
interesting.
was it was 2012 when I moved out to Chicago.
So you didn't graduate high school and then be like, all right, I'm gonna be a chef one day.
No, I just kind of fell into it and then started liking it. And I'd always been uh, I'd always been the creative type. Like
Hmm.
all of my elective classes in high school were art classes. Um, Art and AP Science, oddly enough.
Well, there's a
Um,
lot of science that goes into culinary.
yes, there is. Yes, there is. Um, the AP Science class that I took in high school was an anatomy class, so that kind of helped me with butchering. Um, so yeah, it wasn't really a conscious decision to keep going until I was already knee deep in it, and I found a way to bring all of my various talents to bear on what I was doing in the kitchen, and I here I am.
Wow, that's insane. Like you just fell into what you enjoy, essentially, right?
Sometimes you don't know it until you find it, you know.
Yeah. So then how did you end up having a focus on Asian cuisine?
So line cooks have all of the line cooks that I grew up around, that I came up around, had a fascination with Japanese cuisine and sushi in particular
Hmm.
because the training involved there's like a legendary level of training involved. Like if you're a native Japanese and you decide you want to be a sushi cook or a sushi chef, the first 3 years are like cleaning the kitchen and washing rice, and that's
Hmm.
before they even allow you to touch a fish.
Wow.
Um, so it was always thought of as with this like mystical aura around it. Like this is like the epitome of culinary sciences and skills and um, focus and like being focusing on one particular thing for your whole career. Um, of course, it isn't necessarily true in reality, but that was the perception 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of came into the industry around people who were fascinated by this, and so I became a little fascinated by it, and then I fell in love with it. And I got the opportunity when I was working in Detroit at the MGM Grand Casino in Detroit. I got the opportunity to work with closely with the sushi chef. They brought him in for uh, the auto show season, and
Mhm.
they ended up keeping him on. I was they split the menu in the venue I was in. It was originally like a quote unquote American tapas, which is like small plates, appetizer sized portions, small, tight, very focused menu. But they brought him in, and then we split the menu down the middle to where it was this fusion tapas and sushi on the other side. So I was working with this guy for a couple of years, and then they decided to change the venue over to an all sushi format. And the entire time that I was working next to this guy, I'm picking his brain, I'm helping him out, I'm learning, he's teaching me things. So when they got rid of the Western style cooks in that venue and opened up a sushi cook spot, I applied and got the position.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So because I knew what he was doing. He was teaching, like I said, he was teaching me along the way. So I was able to show my bosses all the way up to like the VP of food and beverage was there as well. So I was able to get that position, and from there on, I just kind of continued down that path.
And you were still a cook at that point? You didn't even become a sous chef?
Correct.
Wow. Dude, that's pretty impressive.
I was. They gave us. We were like the elite cooks in the building. Me and Jay. His name was Jay. He still works in around Detroit actually. He's a Korean guy. Really, really nice. Runs J Sushi. I think he's still out of a hookah lounge in Dearborn, Michigan. I think he still operates a to-go service out of there.
He sells sushi out of a hookah bar?
Yeah, it's a weird arrangement, but it works.
Wow.
So where was I going with this?
I mean, that's... oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so we were like the elite cooks in the building, and they gave us pretty loose leash on what we could do with the menu. So we kind of ran with it, and they let us. So that was really a growing opportunity as well.
Wow. And then at that point, you took the job where I met you at Rivers as a sous chef. So then you said you weren't ready before. What do you think the difference was now that you had a decade of experience?
Just more experience, just more and higher level and deeper knowledge of things like food cost and labor management and keeping and organizing recipes and all the little nuts and bolts. Those were the things that I wasn't. Oh yeah, and dealing with other employees and other cooks and managing people. Those were the things that I wasn't ready for. Because I think part of it is that I'm an only child, so I didn't have any brothers and sisters to boss around when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So those were skills that I needed to learn.
So then what do you think of like people that are like 2 years out of culinary school, like, oh man, I'm ready to be a chef?
I've seen it work once.
Only once in your 20 years?
30 years almost.
30 years. Oh, I'm sorry. 30.
One guy I know came out of culinary school and hit the ground running. He's the only guy I've ever seen do it, and his name's James Regato. He works. I think he's owner of the restaurant Maybell Gray in Hazel Park, Michigan. He gets James Beard recognition all the time, and I don't think he's won, but he's been nominated a few times. He's pretty well known, especially around Detroit. But he's the only guy I've ever seen hit the ground running right out of culinary school and was ready. And I think he was pretty much raised in a diner. Like his parents owned a diner or something. So like he was raised in a kitchen.
So he was probably helping since what, 5, 6 years old?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.